the vice president of Venezuela, now acting executive in Venezuela, she came out and said this in her first address. She said, governments around the world are simply shocked that the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is the victim and target of an attack of this nature, which undoubtedly has a Zionist tinge. What the United States did was extremely cowardly. They go into Venezuela, they take Maduro, and they do a hit and run, right? They do a hit and run. That's all they do. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. Then they come out and they say, we're the biggest, baddest, toughest military on the face of the planet. Are you, though? Because what you did was you bought off corrupt officials. Objectively, I think everyone understands that's the truth. Corrupt officials were bought off, which allowed for this to happen. You have these stories coming out saying the CIA did like these pattern of life recognition tests for months on end, and we did. Come on, we know what they did. They did not just send in, this elite, the most elite of elite, Delta Force squads into Venezuela where they could all get killed. Just on the off chance that maybe things are going to go well. No, they knew what was going to happen. They bought off people. There was very, 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 very minimal air defenses that were activated against these Chinooks that were dropping the personnel that actually went in, the Delta Force that went in and got Maduro and his wife. The whole thing, it's so ridiculous. But they did a hit and run, right? Then they act like these big military heroes. If you're big military heroes, why are there's no U.S. occupation? There's no U.S., Marco Rubio, Trump, they keep getting asked, are there going to be U.S. troops on the ground? And they're like, well, I don't know. But we run Venezuela. What you did was you went in and you stole the president. Okay, presidents can be replaced. Just a simple truth. In Venezuela, the Maduro regime is still in place. You've got the vice president. Maduro's vice president is still there. Pedrino Lopez, the defense minister, is still there. Diosdado Cabello, the interior minister, is still there. PSUV is still intact. The military is still intact. The People's Militia, the Bolivarian People's Militia, which is, million strong, is still intact. The FARC-aligned, ELN-aligned forces are still in the jungle somewhere. And let me just tell you, these people, well, with the exception of those who were bought off, right? We don't really know who was bought off. We know someone was bought off. We know it had to have been high-level people. I'm not going to sit here and speculate and act like I know who it was, but couldn't have been all of them, because right now the Venezuelans are defying U.S. orders on the sanctioned oil tankers. They're trying to still move those oil tankers. Right now, Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president, is saying that we reject this U.S. terrorist operation, seizing our president and his wife. They're calling on him to be freed. Right now, the Trump hasn't spoken to Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president. Right now, the military is saying that they are fully deployed in this operation against the U.S. because Trump is threatening secondary U.S. strikes. Right now, the People's Militia is mobilizing all across the country. So you tell me, who's the big bad military here? It ain't the U.S. For example, look at Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president of Venezuela, now acting executive in Venezuela. She came out and said this in her first address. Governments around the world... She said, governments around the world are simply shocked that the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is the victim and target of an attack of this nature, which undoubtedly has a Zionist tinge. Yes, it is truly shameful. I fully agree. There is a Zionist tinge there, because if you remember, it was not just too many days ago when Trump announced that he would be bombing Venezuela. He actually announced the first land strikes on Venezuela, a Venezuelan port, right next to Benjamin Netanyahu. And Benjamin Netanyahu was sitting there and he's like, yes, very good, Mr. President, very good. Of course, he has to act like he's the president, that Trump's the president. We all know who's really in charge, right? So he did that right in front of Maduro. Also, Maduro went out the next day on Newsmax. He did an interview, and this is what he had to say.
We've had an unbelievable success by degrading Iran, which was a first-rate power. Now it's a second-rate or third-rate power. They were throwing their weight all over the place, exporting terrorism, not only to every part of the Middle East, but to Venezuela. They're in cahoots with the Maduro regime. They're exporting terrorism to America, to the American hemisphere. And then they want these Hezbollah and Hamas to get their guys into the United States. So Hamas and Iran and its proxies are a threat not only to us, but to Israel, all America's allies in the Middle East, and to America itself.
So the day after Trump made that statement in front of Netanyahu goes out on Newsmax and gives an interview talking about how bad of a threat Maduro is and Venezuela is. And we know Trump had already approved this operation. He approved of this operation on December 25th of 2025. So they waited, several days, but initially this was approved on December 25th, 2025. They were going to do the operation on the 31st, I believe, or the 30th, and then they had to wait a few days because of weather conditions, allegedly, and the prime conditions for Maduro to be in the place that they were planning on scooping him up at. Now, Kim Jong-un, the North Koreans, they came out and said, this suppression will lead to a world war. He also called on former President Donald Trump and U.S. leadership to immediately disclose the fate of his friend, Venezuelan President Maduro, adding, the Venezuelan president must be released immediately. Now, you might be wondering why a leader like Kim Jong-un is saying that this is going to result in world war. It's going to lead to world war. Well, I mean, further destabilization doesn't help. Another corner of the earth being set ablaze in conflict and imperialist conflict doesn't help. But you also need to understand something more fundamental that is at play. There's a reason why Netanyahu is okay with this. There's a reason why Netanyahu is okay with U.S. warships and the USS Gerald R. Ford being taken away from the Mediterranean off the coast of Iran and being placed in the Caribbean for this operation. There's a very simple reason why. That reason is that we all know that Iran could shut down the Strait of Hormuz if it's attacked. It didn't do that in the first war, in the 12-day war. That would be a massive escalation. But we know that it really wouldn't take much. Iran has plenty of, destructive capabilities, whether it's missiles, hypersonic missiles, whether it's drones, whether it's naval drones, whether it's naval landmines. They could do this very easily, okay? It would cripple the flow of oil from several Middle Eastern states if they did, in fact, do that. So the reason why they would want Venezuela before they attack Iran, and let me tell you, the tensions are ratcheting up on Iran right now, right after this takes place, and as the U.S. still maintains a blockade on oil tankers in Venezuela, is because they need to secure Venezuelan oil before they run the risk of the Strait of Hormuz getting shut down. That way, there's no global disruption of oil flow for Western powers, that is, okay? So why would the vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, who's acting president now, why would she say that there was a Zionist tinge to the capture of Maduro? All of these reasons lead me to believe that's the simple reason why. Why would Kim Jong-un say that the kidnapping of a Venezuelan president would lead to world war? Well, it's pretty evident as to why they would do that. Why would they make this attack right after Benjamin Netanyahu made his New Year's Eve appearance in Florida? Several days he spent at Mar-a-Lago. Why? Put it together, folks. Put the pieces together. It's quite simple why this is happening. If you don't understand it, I got a bridge to sell you. And, maybe that bridge is an Iranian bridge and it's about to get blown up by U.S. Hellfire missiles, right? That seems to be where we are headed. So that's what's going on. That's why it's happening right now. It has everything to do with Iran. It has everything to do with global oil flow and making sure that the U.S. has what it needs before it literally launches us into World War III. By the way, did we forget the fact that last week, 2 weeks ago, there was a 91 drone attack on President Putin's home in Novgorod while he was in Novgorod? And who's providing the data location for that? It's the CIA. We all know that. The CIA is admittedly providing data location for Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian ships near Crimea. So one can presume that they also provided this information to the Ukrainians who were targeting Putin's home in Novgorod. Trump acted so shocked when he heard about this, right? So shocked. But I think we all really know what's going on. The U.S. tried to come out and claim that it wasn't targeting Putin's home, and they had to summon U.S. military officials to the Ministry of Defense in Russia and give them the exact, coordinates and show them via the location tools that were programmed on these Ukrainian drones that, yes, they were headed for Putin's home in Novgorod while Putin was in Novgorod. So you've got assassination attempts on Putin. You've got Mossad-backed protests in Iran. And I understand there are real protests in Iran, but now the level of violence and certain protests in Iran are more backed by outside forces than others. You've got that going on. You've got war threats against Iran. You've got the seizure, the kidnapping of the Venezuelan president. Yes, it does have a Zionist tinge to it. Delcy Rodriguez is 100% correct. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.